My name is Sylvain Constantin. I'm executive producer at Envisio, which is an independent studio based in Montreal, Canada. I'm in charge of RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch and other mobile games. Today we're going to talk about the genesis of this project. So I'm going to give some background. I'm going to explain how we build it, how we run it, and give some information about the performance of the game. So who am I? I've been building games for a bit more than 20 years now, releasing games on almost every possible platform. One turning point in my career probably was 10 years ago when I was working for Ubisoft at the headquarters. I had the chance of building and driving the entire analytics department for the entire Ubisoft, so I was able to analyze the behavior of the player in all Ubisoft games for 3 years. I learned so much about player behavior, about game performance, and how to leverage the power of data in games, and I really wanted to go back to production and be in charge of social and mobile games where you can have this continuous discussion with players and have a chance at improving the game and make it a service for several years. So this is a screenshot from the original RollerCoaster Tycoon released in 1999, so almost 20 years from now. So who played that game or one of its sequels? Wow, many people. That game was phenomenal. It's a classic PC-type simulation. It's very deep, demands very long play sessions. It's difficult. You can go bankrupt very easily. So you really have to be dedicated if you want to win. Probably, I guess, people had a lot more patience back in the days than nowadays. So that game has been extremely successful. It was in the top charts for several years. It was never like top of the chart, but it was always somewhere in the charts for maybe 4 or 5 years. Very successful game, and everybody knows it. So Atari, which is our partner and publisher on RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch, holds the rights for RollerCoaster Tycoon on all platforms. They decided to release mobile games a few years ago, and now we have a portfolio approach on this brand. So they started in 2014 with a very simple builder called RollerCoaster Tycoon for Mobile. It's very, very simple. Critics hated it, but the game had some success. There is an audience for that, and we have to acknowledge that there are some people who just want to have a very, very casual experience with a given brand. Last year, they released the second game that is premium. It's RollerCoaster Tycoon Classic. It's a straight port of the original games from the PC. And the game is sold. So we know that nowadays it's very, very difficult to sell premium games on mobile because there are so many available games for free that it's very, very difficult to sell something unless your name is Minecraft. But that game is considered to be a success in that space. There is a niche audience that wants to be able to play the original games on their mobile devices. And we thought that there would be an in-between. There was some space on the market for a free-to-play game that would be a more modern approach to free-to-play, and that's how we built RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch. So that's the product. It was released after a little less than a year of development with a very small team. Here's the team. Everybody is there. You can see me on the left. Crazy bunch of people. Good mix of guys and girls coming from different countries. It's a great team. They really understand what they're doing, really passionate. They understand the idea of player engagement, monetization, running games as a service. They really understand that. So the game is a success because they're really committed to it. When I prepared that talk, I thought about what are the main design principles that we use to create that title. I put 5 of those pillars. I'm going to explain in the next slide what they are. In terms of the dev process, it's very classic. We started with a very clear vision of what we wanted to build. We chose Unity because it was the first mobile game for NVISIO. So we built everything from scratch, and we decided to use tools that would allow us to go fast and not have to reinvent the wheel and do too many mistakes. So we chose Unity for the client, and we chose PlayFab to be our backend. We did a very good pre-production on the game. As you can see on those pictures, we started working on the AI system. We refined that. We built the coaster editor, and we refined the graphics until we were satisfied with the results and were ready to do production. All of that is very classic. What is not classic, of course, it's what we have to do once the game is live to continue to keep your player engaged. So I was talking about the 5 pillars that we use to define our game. The first one is to respect the platform. The game is built for mobile, which means that it's meant to be played on small screen, on touch screen, and played in very short sessions. So even if we have a 3D engine that allows us to manipulate the camera in any way, so it's quite nice to look at, most of the gameplay is actually 2D. You have to use the touch screen to scroll, to move, to touch things, to select things. It's very simple, and that is really made for mobile. Respecting the platform also means that you have to be really, really careful about the power of the devices and about the memory. So difficult things like computing the simulation needs to be made in a way that works on low power phones and tablets. Same thing for memory. On most devices, you only have 1 gig of memory, and as it is a builder, you always have to put new stuff in the game. It's very, very difficult to optimize the game and make sure that it will run on even the lower end devices. Built for mobile, that also means that the game needs to be super easy to pick up. We already talked today about day 1 retention on some games. It's one of the key metrics that's driving the retention of players. It's very, very important that the game is very, very easy to understand on day 1. But of course, people want to keep their interest over the long term. So progressively, we add new system on day 2, on day 3, on day 7, and people have always something new to discover while they are progressing through the different levels. And as you can see on the screen, we are giving tools that allow the players to understand what's going on in their park and to react and try to optimize their experience. But the key difference with the original RollerCoaster Tycoon from the PC is that on the PC you can fail. You can go bankrupt very easily. On mobile, this is something that is completely forbidden. We want the player to always be able to progress, even slowly, and optimizing their experience by really going deep into the systems is only there to optimize their speed of progress. The cards. So one thing that is also really, really different and much more modern, in our opinion, is to get rid of the classic store where you just spend your coins to acquire new stuff. There you unlock, while you are progressing, you are unlocking new stuff, and through a system of blind pack, so gacha system, you can get cards. Very, very important to also make a good use of duplicates. So our cards have different rarities, and our cards have different levels. So if you get multiple duplicates of a given card, you can combine them and level them up. And that way, people have something to do for months, if not for years. The coaster editor is also something that's really different from the original games. The roller coasters are really at the core of the game, but initially it was a piece-by-piece system where people have to put a straight, put a curve, lift it up, put a straight, put a curve. It was very tedious. And so as we are on touch screens, we went for a system where you just draw your curves with your finger. So in literally 5 seconds, you can build a roller coaster. And of course, you can still adjust control nodes as much as you want, but it's very, very easy to use. And finally, going along with the card system that gives content for years, we know that people want to have a lot of freedom in the game, but they also love to be taught, told what to do. They love to complete assignments. So we have a multi-tiered system of objectives and achievements. We have daily missions. We have weekly challenges that are a bit more engaging, and we also have long-term achievements. And finally, of course, the game is based on the client-server architecture. So we said we chose Unity for the client, and we chose PlayFab for the backend. Basically, we are doing three things with the backend. First, we are authenticating players. We are saving their progress in the cloud, and finally, we are using it to tweak the game remotely in real time without having to release client updates. So that's an example of how things are done on the PlayFab platform. Here you have a list of some parameters. We have many more, and we can just go there and tweak the value, and it will be instantly updated for everybody. We are also using the backend to get access to the entire history of the players. So we know which country they're coming from, when they logged, what they did, and we can see also their lifetime value. So whenever somebody is complaining, we can filter players by lifetime spendings, and that's a good way for us to focus on the players who matter the most. So after 9 months of development, we finally released the game in soft launch in November. And we continued developing the game actually during soft launch, and it was live in February this year on iOS, and a bit later in March for Android. Good news for us, the media gave us some good reviews about the game. They really understood what we wanted to achieve. They saw that the gacha system was really fun and addictive, and that the simulation model we implemented for this game was really a lot more interesting than the very simple builder that was made in the previous version. So we got those nice reactions from the press. More importantly, we got very lucky. We were picked by Apple. We got the major spot in their weekly featuring on iTunes, and we got that worldwide, almost worldwide. And we took that spot in the US for 2 weeks. So we were extremely happy by that. That really changed the life of the project. And as you can see on the chart that is on the right, during the weekend of the release, we even got the #1 spot for the most downloaded apps, not just game, all apps. So above Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat for a couple days. So that was really amazing for us. The game was picked by some famous YouTubers, and we got many players building videos and showing how to play the game. So that was really fun. But okay, that's cool, but is it working? Is it a game that will be sustainable? So how do we know that? Well, it's easy. We have a full list of analytics where we can track basically almost anything in the game. So we have some core analytics coming directly from the backend, from PlayFab. We also have all the information from iTunes and Google Play. But we are also leveraging different tools to measure the efficiency of the ads we have in the game. And we are following most of the advice that we just heard about in the previous presentation. We also have tools to track the user acquisition. So we have a lot of information. So I'm going to give you some examples of things that we are tracking and that we believe are super interesting for us. So we have like cold facts. It's just boring, but we have in real time access to the traffic eating the game. It's very useful to see the evolution of that. And of course, if we see a big drop, it means we may have a problem. Fortunately, we have been up all the time. We haven't suffered any downtime yet. We have the distribution of player per device. Very important for us to know if playing on a strong device or a low-end device can have an impact on the experience. If some features cannot be accessed or enjoyed as well, depending on the device. That's not really exciting, but that's super useful to have that kind of information. Same thing about the visual settings. We can measure which devices are playing in which settings, and we can learn a lot of things based on that. More interestingly, the churn. So we can check on that graph the drop of players level after level. It's something that's expected. All games suffer from that. The game for us is to try to have a curve that is not too steep. When the game was in soft launch, we had a lot of drop, and we worked very hard during soft launch to change that. And now we are very happy to have a very smooth curve at the end. So the more the players are sticking to the game, and the less they are tending to leave. We also have information about the social aspect of the game. It's something that's important to keep players engaged. And of course, it's very difficult to have a lot of real Facebook friends playing the game, but you can see that most players have some friends, and that means that the social is working. Even more interesting, we have some information about the cards. So that kind of graph shows that every day people get new cards and level them up. We can see the different colors showing the different level of the cards. To us, this is a proof that our card system is working as intended. That graph is beautiful. I love it. That's my favorite. This shows the average happiness of peeps in everybody's park, and we offset the simulation model so that most people had something that's globally positive, centered on 75%. And that's super important for us, and people are giving good feedback about that. Another odd fact that's based on monetization, which is of course something that's very important for us. As you can see, we did a change in the shop a few days ago, and immediately one of the areas of the shop was starting to get more traffic. And as you can see, globally, it's adding up. So that was a very, very positive change for us. On top of this raw data, we also have all the feedbacks from the players coming from the consumer support tool that's embedded in the game. We also read every day the feedbacks we get from Twitter, that we get from the Facebook fan pages. It's very important, and we are mixing all that up to understand if the game is working, what's not working, what should be our priority. So we use that to manage the product. So this is our roadmap. So as you can see, we have two parallel lines of updates. Some of the updates are season events. So every couple months we release an event where people can get exclusive cards. That's really driving monetization and engagement. And the other half of the updates are based on new features that are really adding to the core experience. So we try to do at least a major update every month, and it has really been helpful to keep players engaged. So some example of those improvements. So the new AI system that's a lot more accurate. People have been responding very, very positively to that. A full color customization, it's something that's not present in many builders, and people are really enjoying it and posting a lot of pictures online about their creations. Some social features, and finally something that we overlooked initially, that's a full park editor. In most builders, you just get coins, spend it to get more stuff, and you never come back to changing your city or your base. And in this game, because of the deep simulation, people really want to do experiment and change all the time. So that feature was really a success for us. In the end, we got like fantastic reviews. We are now very strongly above 4.5 stars, but it was not always the case. As you can see on the left, during soft launch, the reviews were really harsh. The game was not optimized. Some important features were missing, but we fought very hard to be able to complete the game, and we released the game in February. Finally, we reached 4 stars, and since we have been staying there. So those good quality perceived by players directly translate into a strong engagement. As you can see, the retention numbers really grow a lot since the initial release, and we are now really above our initial targets. And that translates directly with monetization. Initially, it was average, and now we are seeing monetization increasing again and again. So if you combine engagement and monetization, that translates into very strong LTV, which is now above the cost of acquiring new users. So we are entering this positive feedback loop where we can spend on more users, generating more revenue, and then we can acquire even more users. So we are super happy with that. What's next? A lot of things. We have a roadmap that's full until next year. We have a lot of ideas and things that we want to implement. I can't wait to see the reaction of the players. We signed a partnership with Mattel to add content, branded content into the game. And we are working with partners to launch the game in Asia. That's it for this talk. Thanks. If you have questions.
Hi there. Sorry, just a very quick one. A lot of the developers I work with are kind of getting SDK fatigue, SDK overload. And I just noticed on one of your slides, I found it quite interesting that you have at least 3 different analytics SDKs that I could see integrating with. And obviously data is very important to you. But
I was curious, back to that, yeah.
What was what's the reason that you have so many of those analytics SDKs? Are they providing different information?
Actually, they are all complementary.
Okay.
For instance, our main analytics package is Delta DNA. We have hundreds of events that are tracked to this system. But we need to know the real revenue coming from the game, and the only way to get that, for instance, is by checking into iTunes or Google Play. HelpShift is a tool that we are using for consumer support. Apps Flyers gives the efficiency of user acquisition campaigns. App Figures is a tool that aggregates data coming from different systems. So the only way, for instance, to see the global revenue from iTunes and Google Play is just add that into a third-party SDK. And of course, Unity, Tapjoy, ironSource, all those ad systems come with their analytics. So we don't really need that, but at least we can get the real data from all those tools. So there is not much redundancy there, actually. Hi, Wargame.
First of all, congratulations, great job.
Thank you.
It's very hard to do one of these things. Just a quick question: do you have a cooperative play, competitive play in plans?
Yes. So we are actually working with James from PlayFab. And I want to put some pressure on him. We are working on the idea of adding clans and co-op and PvP competition into the game. We really need to have a strong feature on the backend to do that. So we are working together, and I hope in the next coming months we'll be able to announce something about that. And that's true, that's something that is missing in the game right now. Like most builder, RollerCoaster Tycoon Touch is mostly a single player experience. We have the idea of visiting friends and the gift between friends, but it's limited right now to Facebook real friends, and we know that it's very difficult to have a lot of cooperation between friends because not many people have real friends. So we want the game to be able to allow people to friend inside the game, and the idea of clans is that.
You mentioned you wanted, like, one of the next updates you guys are going to tackle is actually attacking or trying to penetrate Asia. I'd like to have a little more thought around that. Like, what are you guys are planning to do in order to do that?
Yeah, so before we launched RollerCoaster Tycoon worldwide, we decided not to release in China, in Japan, or in Korea. We could have just localized the game and just put the text in the right language. That would not have been that hard, but we wanted to have a partner that would allow us to do a full cultural change in the game in order to not make any mistake, and also in order to really leverage the opportunity to adapt the game to those specific populations. Those are very, very big markets. We have strong expectations. We know that the theme of the game can really appeal to those populations, but we want to have a partner that really knows those markets. And on top of that, we want to work with a publisher that has really a good understanding on how to operate games there and how to acquire users in those countries. So we decided to hold off on that. Instead, we continue to improve the game, and in order to not rush it and waste the potential of the game in those countries.
Thank you. Great talk. Just out of curiosity, out of the 15 people in your development team, how many hours did they put in the original RollerCoaster Tycoon game to understand the appeal points or the original IP?
So one thing quick about the team, they were 15 during development. Now we are 25, which is the sign of a game that's successful, and we could be even more. So that's very classic in free-to-play development. We would like to do more. People are consuming the product and the content very fast, and we have a lot of ideas, but we try to build a sustainable team. So in this team, I can say that the lead game designer that really built the initial concept with me is a diehard fan of the franchise. And on top of that, she was working for a Six Flags park for several years. So she really knows everything about theme parks. And yes, it has been a constant discussion between her and me to say, okay, what is core to the franchise? What is that we really need to carry over and have in this game? And what can we change? Because that probably would not fit a mobile free-to-play games. So for every feature, we had this discussion.
Sylvain, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful talk.